Hi and welcome. We will now create a very simple web application using Tramsy.com. It will be a web application using some HTML and some JavaScript. We will store data in Tramsy.com, so we will use the Tramsy.com JSON API to read and write data. And since this is a simple demonstration of how to create an application, we will not follow any best practices or code conventions. It will just be simple, readable code for you to understand. So we start by going to Tramsy.com, and here we log in using any Google enabled account. And I don't have any web apps yet, so we create an app and we call it Message Board. Here we go. So now Tramsy created a default form for us. Forms are important because you need a form to be able to store data. But we will not use any of the visual stuff here because we will create our own graphical user interface using HTML and JavaScript, so we don't do anything with this. Instead we go back to the message board app and have a look. We see that we have one form, it's called message board, just like the app. We have some settings for the app. Under share we see that we allow anonymous access, and we see that I am developer at Tramsy.com. I am the only administrator of this app. I want to change this. I don't want anonymous users on the internet to have access to my web application, so I click do not allow anonymous access. Only me. And to create this message board we need to start with some HTML. So I click the code tab and I create a page. I create index.html. And here's my new page. It's not empty because Tramsy has filled it with some basic HTML5 code. So I got, out of the blue, I got some Bootstrap references and I have jQuery. And I have an empty container. So I save this page and I open it and it's blank because it doesn't contain anything visual yet. Since this is a message board, I would like to start by adding a header, and we call it message board. Ta-da! And under the title I would like to have a simple form where the user can enter a new message. So it's basically just one input field. But I want it to look good and I want to use Bootstrap, so let's Google Bootstrap CSS form. Let's go to the official Bootstrap page and use some of the example code. And here we go. Here we have a form. We are not interested in submit button, we are not interested in the checkbox or in the file input, and we only want 1 out of 2 input fields. So let's indent this code and let's delete the submit button, the checkbox, input, file input, and the second form input, the input field. Now we have just one input field, that's nice. And let's rename that. We want it to be called, the label to say message. This label should be for our message input. And the type of the input field should be text, and the ID should be message input, and we don't need a placeholder, so we remove that. And what do we have now? Ta-da! We have a message and an input. We have an input field called message. So out of the box, the normal behavior for a form is that it should be submitted if you type something in here. So if I type Elvis and press enter, my web browser will submit this form. I don't want that behavior, so I go into the form and I say on submit return false. Good. Let's try that. Type Elvis, we press enter and nothing happens. Perfect. And now under my form I would like to have a HR. Nice. And under that I would like to have the message, a list of messages. Here we go. Here is our little empty list. So I would like to be able to write something here in the message input. I would like to be able to type enter, and it should submit this message to the server, and it should update the list with the existing messages. And for that I need JavaScript. So let's go back and create a JavaScript file. And let's include the JavaScript file. Let's place that at the end of the body, like that. And let's make sure that nothing, yeah, it works. So what do I want to do? I want to be able to post a new message to server. I want to be able to list existing messages. I want to delete a message. Let's start by posting a new message to the server. We know that our input field has an ID message input, so we say on key press do something. What do? We just print out what. Nice. And let's see what will happen if we press the enter key. We see that's key code 13. Okay, so let's say if event.keycode equals 13. Let's log the message enter to see that it works. It works. So here we want to grab the message text, which is let's log that out so we see that it works. Elvis, yeah, Elvis, perfect. Now we want to send message text to a server. And to do that, we go to the right side where we have code snippets, where we have an example called write data. And here we have some code that we will use. And let's take this part, the Ajax call, which uses posts to post some data. And let's create an object where message is message text. That's it. And that object is what we want to send to the server. So this says, please stringify this object. And okay. So, and we want to have, we need to have the URL to the form that we saw in the beginning. And we can get that by clicking on the right side on forms, and we have a form called a message board. And here we have this JSON URL. Call that base URL. So we want to post the base URL and want to post the stringified version. We want to stringify the object, make it a string, and post that to this URL. Nice. And jQuery will return a promise object, so we can listen to, we can hook into done, for example. And when this is done, we want to update the list here with messages. We also want to clear this input field when we have pressed enter. So let's do that. Let's say let's clear the input field, and let's create a new function for list messages. And when we are when the HTTP post is done, we want to list messages. And how do we do this? Well, we just use jQuery get on base URL. That will give us all the existing items saved by this form. And when this is done, we want to iterate for each item. For each item, we want to create a list element. We want to set the text of the element to item.message. And we want to add that to the list, to the UL element. So UL, and we called the list element, we give it a class message list, so let's find that one. And before we start adding, we will make it, we empty it first. And then we will append li like that. And just to show you guys, we can log that. Let's log the items that we get back when we ask for all the data, so you can see how it looks. Now we should, so we should press enter, should send a message, and we should, when that's done, we should list messages by going back to the server, asking for all the messages. And when that's done, we should log the messages, and we should iterate over them and create one list item per item. Let's see if it works. So let's say I want an Elvis record. That worked. Here we have our new list element. And we have logged whatever came back, and we only got one item back because we only have one item so far. And you can see that we sent in just a object with one property called message with the value I want an Elvis record. Then Tramsy will of course add some metadata to that one, so we see that it was last modified at this date and so on. So now we have it. We have our message board with the input, and we have the list of messages. What happens if we write yet another message? Merry Christmas. Well, it works. Maybe we want to style this list a bit, so we go back to the page for Bootstrap and we look at components, I guess, and lists, list groups. Nice. And here we can take some stuff. Let's say that the UL should have the class list group. And each item should have a list group item class. So we say LA add class list item group. And we also, of course, when you just go to this page, you want to see the existing one. So let's add a call to this list message function at the end. So here we go. Now we have a nicer list. I guess that we are not happy because we also would like to be able to delete an existing message. How do we do that? Well, let's create a delete button. And let's append that button to the list item. And then we get this, which looks horrible. So let's start by pull that button to the right using the Bootstrap pull right class. Better. And I guess we want to take the style away from the button. So this we take away it should not have a border, and it should let's do this. How does that work? Yeah, it doesn't have a border. And we say that the background should be transparent, making it, now it looks better because it doesn't look anything. Perhaps we also want to say that our list items should have line height of let's say 44 pixels. Yeah, a little bit more space. And we want to be able to, yeah, the delete button is big. Instead of writing delete, we would like to use font awesome. And okay, sorry, this is the one we should use. Times. Let's go to our JavaScript page and change this one. We add the styling to the button, and now we have a nice delete icon instead. Yeah, it's okay. And when we click this delete button, we want to delete this item. And for that we need a function called delete message. And how do we do that? jQuery ajax delete. Oh, here we have some delete code for jQuery. So we want to go to the base URL, which ends, in this case it ends with a slash. We don't we just say base URL plus message.id. And let's return this promise object so we can do something when the delete is done. So we say, okay, if you click the delete button, we want to delete message, and it should be this item. And when we are done doing that, we want to list messages again. So if you click the delete button, let's delete the item and call list messages again. Let's see if that works. It seems to work. So we add a new item message and we delete it. So this is nice. Okay, that was all for this time. You have learned how to create a new application, how to create some HTML, and how to create some JavaScript, and how to work with the JSON API. And if you are looking for some information, you should always look at the right, where you have the snippets with example codes. You have references to other artifacts in your application, and at the bottom here you can always find a truckload of different JavaScript and CSS libraries. So if you want to include underscore or low dash or whatever, you will find links to content delivery networks here. Thank you very much for looking at this, for watching, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate, just post them. See you guys.